You know that feeling, right? That heart pounding, can't eat, can't sleep, totally consuming feeling of having a crush. We've all been there. But what is actually going on inside our brains when we are just completely 100% infatuated with someone? Well, let's get into it and find out.
I mean, it can feel like it takes over your entire world, can it? Turns out there's this fascinating psychological roller coaster happening completely behind the scenes. So let's break that down.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to look at what draws us in. And what's really interesting here is that the rules of attraction are often totally counterintuitive. They have way more to do with our own psychology than you might think.
Now, this is going to sound a little strange, but it's a super powerful phenomenon. Psychologically, we're way more likely to get a crush on someone if we see that other people already think they're attractive. It's like a form of social proof, but for romance. And this one, oh, this is a huge one. Just like the slide says, we are naturally, almost magnetically, drawn to people who seem just a little bit out of our reach. But why is that? Well, because their unavailability kicks our brain's default mode network into high gear. You can think of it as your brain's internal movie theater. It's the part that's responsible for all your fantasies, your daydreams, and for just imagining all those future possibilities. And here's the kicker. That state of fantasy, just the simple thought of your crush, triggers a release of dopamine. You know, the brain's feel-good chemical. So you're not just crushing on the person anymore. You're actually getting a little addicted to the idea of them. Right. So our brain is hooked on this fantasy, and that's where things start to get really wild. Once that initial spark of attraction is there, our brain just kicks into overdrive, and it starts building this, well, this almost fictional version of our crush.
This process has a name. It's called idealization. Your brain gets so focused on all the good feelings your crush gives you that it literally starts to ignore their flaws. You start giving them all these amazing qualities you admire, whether they actually have them or not.
Have you ever noticed this? The second you learn your crush's name, let's say it's Sam, suddenly you see the name Sam everywhere. On street signs, in movies, you hear people saying it. That is not a coincidence. That is the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Your brain has basically flagged that name as important, and now it's subconsciously scanning the entire world for it.
And, oh man, if you've ever tried to just get over it by telling yourself to stop thinking about them, you've probably run right into this. It's called psychological resistance. The harder you try to push the thoughts away, the more your brain rebels and thinks about them even more intensely. It's a total paradox.
Okay, be honest. What about those imaginary conversations you have with them in your head? It is not just you. This is what we can call brain rehearsal. Your brain is essentially running a practice simulation of a social interaction. You're mentally rehearsing what you might say, and the result is you actually feel more prepared and confident for when you actually do talk to them.
So, we've covered all the crazy stuff going on inside your head, but your body, well, your body is broadcasting some pretty clear signals of its own, and a lot of the time, you don't even realize it.
Yeah, that fluttery feeling we all think is so romantic. I hate to break it to you, but it's actually your body's fight or flight response kicking in. When you see your crush, your brain can register it as a stressful situation, which releases adrenaline and causes that famous butterfly sensation.
Here's something to listen for next time. Studies show that men will subconsciously lower the pitch of their voice when they're talking to someone they're attracted to. And apparently it works, because other research shows women are often more attracted to men with deeper voices, since it psychologically signals a sense of safety and assurance.
And there are other little giveaways too. You might find yourself mirroring their body language without thinking about it, or you might do things like subconsciously play with your hair. But here's a really wild one. Because you're in this state of heightened emotional sensitivity, you're actually more likely to remember your dreams more vividly. How cool is that?
All these intense feelings, though, they bring up a really important question. When is it just a crush, and when does it cross the line into something more, or maybe even something a little unhealthy?
So just think about it for a second. What's your guess? A few weeks? A month? Maybe a whole year? Well, you might be surprised to learn that psychologists have a pretty specific answer.
4 months. That's the magic number. According to psychological research, a typical, fleeting infatuation, what we call a crush, usually lasts for about 4 months.
And that 4-month mark is pretty much the key difference. If those super intense feelings are still going strong well beyond that point, chances are you're dealing with something deeper, a more enduring connection that we would probably start to call love. But there is another possibility. If those thoughts become intrusive, if they start to mess with your daily life and you feel like you can't control them, you might be experiencing something called limerence.
This is what happens when the brain's reward system gets hypersensitive, and it leads to this obsessive craving for the other person that feels almost completely involuntary.
So whether it's a 4-month crush or something more intense, how can we actually navigate these feelings? Instead of just being at their mercy, is it possible to use this whole experience as a chance for some personal growth?
Believe it or not, yes, those nerve-wracking conversations can actually be incredibly useful. Every single interaction, no matter how small or awkward it feels, is a chance for you to practice managing your emotions, expressing yourself, and building real-world social skills and confidence, one step at a time.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? First and foremost, having a crush is a completely normal, universal part of being human. They're like a spotlight, shining a light on the qualities you really desire and value in other people. The whole experience, the good and the bad, is a chance to learn and grow. And maybe most importantly, don't beat yourself up if the feelings aren't returned. It's all part of the process.
Ultimately, every crush you have is kind of like a mirror. It's reflecting your hopes, your ideals, and the things you're really looking for in a connection. So instead of just getting lost in the feeling, maybe the real question we should be asking ourselves is, what is this crush trying to tell me about me?